This conference will now be recorded.
Are there any legislative members? Legislative members?
Oh. Are there any legislative members on?
Great, thank you very much.
And I didn't see Patrick.
Correct. He contacted me and said that he may not be able to attend.
Okay.
It was busy. Clearly that didn't work out. Thank you all for being here today. Your time, dedicating your time to this purpose is very appreciated. I would like to give an update on the board. As you may have noticed during roll call, we do have a full board, and we have one new member and one reappointed member. Luke Erpelding is with Communication Centers. He's been appointed to the board, and Patrick Updike is now our at-large member. Luke, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Luke Erpelding. I'm currently with the Iowa Department of Public Safety as a manager for the Storm Lake Center in Northwest Iowa. But that does not limit my range. I travel most of the state on a weekly basis, so you'll see me all around the state on different various assignments.
Well, we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve today's agenda.
Yes, so moved.
Benson will second.
Perfect. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of the meeting minutes from August 8th.
Yes, moves.
And a second.
Benson will second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That brings us then to our SWIC report. SWIC Walder. Yeah.
Hello. Yep. So Haley's gone, so I've got some notes from her, and but it'll probably be relatively brief here. She is first of all, she's at the in Joplin, Missouri, at the Central States Comex, attending that event. That is a big communications rodeo, if you will, and it brings every year it's grown in size, and I haven't yet seen a report as to how many different agencies are coming together to do this over the course of a 3 or 4 day period. But that'll be a good experience for anybody that's able to attend, especially in a SWIC role. So. Let's see, she says, one of the reminders is that Isicsb users, there's a minimum programming standard that's available on the website. It's standard 1.7.0, and that talks about the minimum programming. If you're an Isicsb member at any level, needs to have all of the regional and statewide interoperability talk groups, as well as it's supposed to have the attached 217A resources that's if your radio's band capable. I'm guessing a question must have come up in the course of the last month, but she wanted to reiterate that. There's a new process in place that CIS is using for TA requests. So those are the technical assistance requests. Those are your ComL, ComT, INTD, and there's a handful of other ones. So they're asking for this process to start on October 1st. They're saying we're going to be limited to 2 requests per year, October and April. So we'll get 4 total requests over a budget year, but they're breaking it into 2 parts, in which I will be able to submit, up to 5 TA requests with no guarantee that all 5 will be accepted for that time period. So we'll present those 5 requests twice a year, once in October, once in April. So more to come on that. It's just kind of like everything. There's budgetary funding has decreased, and so they're finding it more difficult to fill those requests. And so, but we're going to try to put Iowa on the map and make sure that they know what our top priorities are. Work continues on revision on policies and standards. This is happening at the committee level, and we welcome interested individuals' voices. So again, if there's persons interested in joining one of the committees, reach out to an Isicsb board member, the SWIC, or the deputy SWIC, and one of us will get you in contact with the person that's needed. There was some discussion about the use of channel markers on interoperable talk groups. That is a channel marker is a thing that's engaged generally at the dispatch console level, that when a push to talk occurs, then an extra beep or tone is sounded. Some agencies use it as a form of notifying new arriving users that there's an elevated or escalated event going on already that they may not be aware of. Procedurally, though, that falls under the tones and toning standard, and I don't have the standard number here, but that's recommended or suggested not to be used on interoperable talk groups, only on your own. So if it's part of your procedure, your operational talk groups, you do anything you want. But because of the fact that it affects others, and part of it is the educational piece of that. Why am I hearing this beeping, and what does it mean? And it's not something that's utilized a whole lot, but apparently has caused some confusion. But definitely something could be discussed at the committee level if we have a need to revisit that. She says she was made aware of national ransomware attacks daily via CISA reports on healthcare, government, public and private agencies, and that be aware that the threats continue to disrupt daily operations in different fields, and have a plan in place. It may not be any more a question of if, it's a question of when. So have some idea how you're going to move your agency forward, especially in that critical early stages where you may lose access to a system and not completely understand why. So that concludes the SWIC reports. I can attempt at any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I have some sub-notes on some committees also, but so I can help you where needed.
Thank you, appreciate that. Are there any questions for Deputy SWIC-Walter? 911 Council Report. Program Manager Carucci.
Thank you, and I apologize for my absence the last couple of months. We had been convening a work group to work on some legislative issues, which that was a substantial piece of the 911 Council meeting today. If you are in a position or I would highly recommend to review the YouTube recording of the 911 Council meeting. It will be posted probably later today, if not tomorrow. And then just a reminder as well, if you did miss anything over the last couple months, while I wasn't able to provide any updates, we do record those council meetings and post them to YouTube for viewing after the fact. Really only one thing maybe of note to this group, we are going to convene a meeting with GIS folks. There's been a number of questions recently asked of our office, so we'll have some vendor community within the state of Iowa and really just have a question and answer period with anyone that's involved in GIS addressing type of things at the local level. That will be held the end of October. An email will be going out on that later today. I think that's about it for me. Again, if you're interested in 911 funding or surcharge or anything like that, I would highly recommend you plug in and watch the council meeting from earlier today. I would take any questions.
Great. Does anyone have any questions for Program Manager Darushi? Hearing none. Thank you, Blake.
Thank you.
User Group Committee, Chair Vandewater.
So we met for my first meeting on August 15th. There was 8 members present. We reviewed 2 applications that appear on the new business section of today's agenda. Not having any expectations, the discussion was a lot deeper and more in depth than I expected to just approve the applications. I believe both entities modified their applications based on that discussion and, will be addressed later in the new business, but, it was interesting and we got through it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Any questions for the user group? Okay, thank you. The Finance Committee met and reviewed the finance reports. All things were in order. The carryover balance is reflected in the reports that are before you, and all expenditures were as expected. Are there any questions regarding the finance reports as presented? All right, hearing none. That brings us to governance, and Chair Ness.
Thank you, Chair. We met in August and did not meet in September as it fell on Labor Day, and we continue to make progress on old policies that will be coming to the board shortly.
Fantastic, thank you. Are there any questions for the Governance Committee? Next is Operations and Chair Holding.
All right, operations at our normally scheduled meeting. This was one of my first ones in attendance. Again, just trying to get familiar with the business there. We have been working on, or rather the group, I'm just joining in, has been working on the medical interoperability communication standard. That was out for previous comments. Some comments were made and additional language has been changed. We will have that review and new business and put up additional 30 days comment. To add on to the remarks of Deputy Swick-Walser, our group also was looking at the standard for audible alert tones and possibly looking at addressing that with the channel markers. That also came up in our discussion. No action was taken this time other than research the current standard of 1.12.1, which was last updated in 2020. We looked at that and thought that that could do some refresh also and address the channel markers. That is about it for my report.
Thank you. Any questions for the Operations Committee?
Yeah, I just wonder if you'd repeat that that standard number.
Yep, title is Isicsb Standard Audible Alert Tones 1.12.1.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions for the Operations Committee? Training and Outreach Committee, Chair Wilson.
I have not attended the first meeting yet. It's next week. Did she do anything with you, Kurt?
I have not been on one in a while. Let me look here and see if there's the 8:15 meeting was rescheduled to 8:22, which was then canceled due to a family emergency. So apparently there was, based on this, there was no meeting in August, so you didn't miss anything. And it looks like the next one, meet again on September 19th at 1 p.m., discussing commu procedure and white papers, PTT, two-way communication, radio affiliation, and scanning. I'll do everything I can to be there on the 19th for you.
Are there any questions for the Training and Outreach Committee? Next is Technology. Has Chair Updike joined us?
I don't believe.
I just heard a couple beeps, but
I got a couple of notes.
Go ahead.
The 8:22 meeting was canceled due to a family emergency. 9:3 met briefly to discuss 3.11.0. We'll continue to review and revise this standard, and I don't have a note as to which standard that is. My apologies. I don't have them memorized.
No, you're okay. Are there any questions for the Technology Committee? FirstNet Broadband Subcommittee, Chair Benson.
Thank you, Chair Bischoff. We actually will be meeting on the 24th of this month. We have modified our meetings to hold that for some other items that will be brought forth by FirstNet. So yeah, we'll be meeting on the 24th of this month. If there is any interest on anyone getting into the onto our committee, please let myself or Holly know. We'll add you to our distribution list. But brief out on our FirstNet will be brought to you by our FirstNet partners a little later on in the meeting. Also to note, there will be, and maybe Rob Dennett will speak on this in a little later, there'll be a response operations group brought to you by the city of West Des Moines. I have the flyer in front of me, so bear with me, on Wednesday, September 25th, but it looks like there's some RSVP that needs to be done by September 19th. So if you need a copy of that flyer, let myself or Rob Dennert know, or Swick Nichols, we can send that out to you. But it looks like there'll be some FirstNet experts on site. They're going to do some hands-on demonstrations and ROG presentation. So it looks like it'll be a pretty interesting day with those, with some response operations group and some FirstNet demonstrations. So some interesting stuff coming down. But yeah, that's all I have for right now.
Great. Excuse me, thank you. Are there any questions for the FirstNet Broadband Subcommittee? That brings us to information sharing among board members. Are there any members that have information that they would like to share with the rest of the board? I have one thing, and that is to let board members know that between now and the end of the year, I'd like to schedule a work session where we can all get together. It will have to be a public meeting due to now the size of the board. We can't meet as a board or even as a subset of the board with more than 4 people together. So we'll have a public meeting, but it'll be a work session to just review review now that we have a full board, what it means to be a board member, our agenda, if we want to make any changes to that, our meeting schedule, the format of our schedule, just basically a refresh of how do we want to do our business for the upcoming year, and have that be in a work session. But I'll send out some communication about that in the next month or so, just so that when you hear that, see that, that's what that's about, is just an opportunity to review how we're doing business and how we want to do business going forward now that we're a 7-member board as opposed to a 19-member board. Are there any other items to be shared? All right, we'll move on to the system admin report. Scott Richardson.
Thank you, Chair Fisher. I'll start out the update with Isicsb maintenance. This week we had a quarterly core security patching. That went smoothly, no problems reported with that. This week also radome covers were being replaced at Shelby and 3 Westcom sites. Generator and HVAC PMs are nearing completion, with less than 8 sites remaining. Our RF PMs should fall below 10 remaining by the 23rd of this month and should be completed in October. And as a reminder, we've got an Astro system upgrade scheduled for early December. We're going to be going to Astro A 2022.1. There will be more details to follow, but that will have some site impacts during that time, database freeze, provisioning manager access, that kind of stuff. And finally, on the maintenance, due to the tornado damage in May, the Adair South Tower was discovered to have structural damage that prevents reusing the tower. Hence, that tower will have to be replaced. Those discussions are ongoing now, and there will be, again, more details to follow on that, but it's going to be kind of a major deal for that area of Isicsb. Beyond that, I've got Isicsb numbers from last month. Radios are at 39,424. Talk groups are at 3,356, and our push-to-talks were just over 3.1 million, and that gives talk time for last month of 4,432 hours. With that concludes my update.
Thank you. Any questions for our system admin? FirstNet Authority, Tom Lampy.
So I'm down at Joplin as well, so I'm going to give my report rather quickly here. First of all, I'd like to report that the task force report from our nationwide outage on February 22nd is now available on our firstnet.gov website. If you want to refer to and read the results of that task force report on the outage, it's there. The board meeting, FirstNet board meeting that occurred on the 21st approved some funding of a 10-year investment of $2 billion. That will include an extra 1,000 Band 14 new sites in 24 and 25. That money will focus on tribal territories and rural geographies. We continue to see the ongoing feedback for the planning process of those. It also includes 5G and our upgrades to our deployable fleet, the 5G RAN, the Band 14 site upgrades, 5G priority, satellite to device investment plans for 25, in building enhanced coverage where we need it, and our deployable capacity. The other thing I wanted to report out, just some quick stats. We are hitting 6.1 million users across the nation. We have 28,500 agencies enrolled in FirstNet. And also the 24th, I think Mindy did mention we're doing the field FirstNet progress update at your broadband subcommittee meeting. We'll be bringing in AT&T and the authority to give you that presentation. And she mentioned the 25th as well for our ROG demo. As of today, I had a call this morning. There's 47 registered. We are not limiting we decided we're not going to limit the amount of people. We'll just accommodate everybody and everybody who wants to come. So that's my report. Anything I can answer that now.
Great, thank you, Tom. Are there any questions for the FirstNet Authority? Moving on to AT&T, Tyler Richard. Is there anyone on the call representing AT&T? Great. Hearing none, we'll move on. SISA update, Chris Myers.
Yes, thank you, Chair Bischoff. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Super, thank you. Greetings from the Joplin-Quapaw area as well for the Central States ComEx. I think I heard a question about attendees before. I believe we're up around somewhere between 280 and 330. We've had some 314 officially. How many states, John? 29 states plus the District of Columbia, so largest ComEx in the country at this point. So those numbers are hot off the press as they're just tallying attendance next to me. So thanks again for the time this month. Haley is busy working in the sim cell right now, I believe, drawing on some previous dispatch experience and contributing to the exercise. Slides for this month, I do have a few. I don't know if you can see them right now or not, but I can roll into... Okay, perfect. So on the first slide, we'll talk about the National Preparedness Month. This is every September. Point agency on this is FEMA. And National Preparedness Month focuses on the idea that we are all responsible for preparing ourselves, our agencies, and our families for whatever life may throw at us. The goal is to build awareness and encourage Americans to take steps to prepare for emergencies in all places, whether it's their homes, schools, workplace, organizations, other businesses, and houses of worship. One of the themes this year focuses on Hawaii and other territorial islands within the U.S.'s jurisdiction. And one of the big things here is just to kind of, if you boil it down, it's just knowing your risk and taking the appropriate actions before, during, and after a disaster strikes. You can find more information on ready.gov, and you can also find some additional outreach materials there that may be useful to your agencies or partners within your communities. Next slide. We'll kind of start getting into some of the more meaty material as far as cyber threats this month. Just this month, the FBI, CISA, and the NSA released a military cyber actors advisory that focuses on the Russian General Staff Main Intelligence Directorate, also known as GRU. This group has been responsible for computer network operations against U.S. and global targets for various things: espionage, sabotage, and other reputational harm since at least 2020, based on what we've been able to ascertain. The big thing here is that they really haven't known a whole lot of boundaries as far as where they've gone. So for agencies that would be targets, such as government partners, public safety, and our communication systems, you want to make sure you do prioritize those system updates as a mitigation strategy. And those known exploited vulnerabilities, get those patched as soon as you can. One thing you can take as an additional precaution is to make sure networks are properly segmented from each other, meaning that if someone gets onto one network, they can no longer hop to another laterally. This prevents the spread of malicious activity. Other standbys as well, such as phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication for all externally facing accounts, especially for your webmail, virtual private networks, VPNs, and accounts that access critical systems. Of note, a lot of our systems now do have remote access capability built into them by default, so you want to make sure that those are properly secured, as that is basically advertising where the front door to your system exists on the internet. So you want to make sure you've got proper protections in place. You can find this bulletin by searching our website on CISA.gov, or just reach out to me or Haley, and we'll get you a copy. On the next slide, there is a best practices document that was released a couple of weeks ago for event logs and threat detection. This was a large partnership amongst Australia, CISA, the FBI, NSA, and other international partners. The list here is very, very lengthy, but the goal here is to spread awareness and help demonstrate methods to detect the increased prevalence of malicious actors that are using techniques such as living off the land. If you think back, living off the land is where someone may gain access to a system, and the goal there is to conduct missions that are against the agency that they just hacked, and do so in an undetected fashion. That includes using things that are already existing on the system, fileless malware, and other various downloads that are available for them to utilize against the people that they view as adversaries, which in this case would be us. This event log and threat detection best practices document focuses on 4 key factors: enterprise approved logging policies that apply to everybody, a centralized log access and correlation, as in you've got all these logs with all these things that have been recorded, but what do they correlate to? Do they correlate to someone logging onto a system? Do they correlate to someone logging off, file creation, things like that? So you want to kind of know what those things mean. Additionally, having secure storage to ensure log integrity, and also a detection strategy for relevant threats. Very long address at the bottom of the slide deck for getting access to this document, and it is on an external facing website. However, if you do want a copy of it, you can email me and I'll get you a copy of that as well. Next slide, we'll talk a little bit about some of our priority telecommunication services really quickly. Most of us are familiar with them. They include GETS, WPS, and Telecommunication Service Priority. One thing to keep in mind here is that GETS and WPS apply to wireline and wireless calls respectively, and they apply to voice only. Telecommunication Service Priority is an additional over-the-top feature you can add to some of your service contracts that provide wired backhaul to your communication centers or other key facilities. That cost with PSP does get charged by the telecommunication service providers. And typically it tends to be fairly nominal, but there are some key benefits there, such as priority with restoration. And if you were to have to relocate a facility due to storm damage, a flood, or anything like that, this does give you the ability to get priority installation and transfer to the new or temporary facility. At this point, too, we still have the PTS Dialer app that is available to streamline things. I know, having recently been around many places in the Midwest, have had to use GETS and WPS a couple of times to make some calls, and they do work. Just saw some data earlier today as well from the onshore hurricane, and all of our WPS success rates are still above 90% in the affected areas. So WPS and GETS do work. Next slide, we've got some specific numbers for Iowa. Apologize for the typo there, but as far as Iowa's GETS numbers go, at last check, they were right around 3,200, which would be around 6.7% of all eligible lines. For WPS, there's between 26 and 2,700 eligible lines that have signed up, which would equate to about 5.6%. These numbers are depressed slightly just because of the expansion of eligibility for GETS and WPS over the last couple of years. GETS and WPS was expanded to all 16 critical infrastructure sectors. So since you've got more eligible numbers, the percentages as a result went down. If you do want to have more awareness of GETS and WPS within Iowa, we do offer some personnel up that can provide informational webinars that are open to anybody that would be eligible. Just get in touch with me and we can get a webinar set up for that. Last slide, for some regional news of note, the Central States COMEX is ongoing. We are in the last day of it, and it has been a very, very good turnout so far. The measle this year focuses on a wildfire scenario that has grown out of control at this point based on the injects, and we are really stressing the communications capabilities of our students, which is great. Technical assistance request period, as you heard talked about before, starts in October. Targeted delivery dates through April of next year. We do acknowledge that longer fuse projects may extend past that. Your SWIC has a lot of information as well, and I can answer any questions today if there are any. Last item of note for the interoperability markers assessments, all of Region 7 has been done. Results are being tabulated, and expect for those results to come out within the next 3 months or so. Typically, they come out around the January timeframe. Those will be distributed to the SWIC and the board chair for dissemination amongst the group. That's all I have for the day. I can go ahead and take any questions.
Great, thank you, Chris. Are there any questions for Chris regarding materials presented or anything that CISA is responsible for? Great, thank you, Chris. Is there any old business? Moving on to new business. Approval of new Isicsb users. Chair Vanderwater.
So based on our discussions on August 15th, I would make a motion for the board to approve the applications that appear on the agenda today, which are for the Federal Protective Service and the Veterans Memorial Hospital in Waukon, in order that they may be granted access to the Isicsb platform.
Great, is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the approval of the new users as listed on the agenda. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our next item is the approval of the 30-day comment period on Isicsb Standard 1.5.5, medical interoperable communications. Liz, did you have anything you wanted to add to this?
I said we received public comments before, we've made those revisions, and we're going to be requesting another posting for 30 days for additional public comment.
Would you like the motion?
I would like the motion to post those, please.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item C is approval of the 2024 Iowa State Communications Interoperability Plan, affectionately known as the SCIP. This is a plan that we had worked on as a large group in this very room and has gone through much review and iteration. But I would entertain a motion to approve that plan as presented.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the 2024 SCIP, please signify. Wilton was the second. Ness was first. Wilton second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item D is approval of the TA request. Do you have detail on the TA request?
Yeah, she sent those. Give me 1 second.
All right.
Well, I thought I had it here. Oh, here we are. looks like we are applying for a COML, an INTD, and an INCM. Are the three that I see listed on here. Let me make sure there isn't any more. Nope. COML has been fairly common. We try to do those at regular intervals or at, you know, hopefully one a year. That one can be tough to sometimes get a full, you have to meet the 50% requirement in order for them to, enrollment, in order for them to have any one of these courses. And I know COML, I think, is good for up to 30, so you have to have 15 minimum. That's one that we try to do fairly regularly. Probably more popular one is the INTD. I think we've actually, raw numbers, we've had more through that program than any of the other ones. So that one's on the list and is one that's regularly asked about. And then INCM, we've actually only ever had one. That was in Scott County 2014. No, it would have to be 2016 or 17. That's the Incident Communication Center Manager. It's kind of an intermediate point on the ICS spectrum, but it's probably appropriate given what we experienced with the flooding and the tornadic activity, but specifically the flooding where they had to leave the PSAP and had to be supported and basically build a mobile office, if you will, or a mobile PSAP. That kind of training is geared towards that particular role, and I'm not sure what the minimum enrollment is for that course, but that's what we have on the list.
Okay. Any questions regarding the TAs being requested? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the submittal of the TAs as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And our, excuse me, and our next item is a presentation of credentials to Rebecca Liston of INTD. Do we have her certificate?
With Pot County, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, come on up. And I don't know if, can one of you snap photos?
I'll snap some pictures.
Okay.
She's got the camera over here.
Oh, you can't do it.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't want her out.
You go first. So, you got a certificate here for Rebecca for being officially credentialed in the state of Iowa for the role of INTD.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'll let you hold it.
Hold it, open again.
Yeah.
Look at the camera.
There you go. Smile. There you go. Awesome.
Give Rebecca a round of applause. Congratulations and thank you for your efforts in seeking certification and the support of your agency and allowing that to happen. That brings us to public comment. Is there any public comment? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Second?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye.